Hello and welcome to Talk Football Podcast. My name is Tommy Hay and I'm joined via Zoom by the editor of Get Spanish Football News Online, Kieran Quayle. You're still in Ireland, Kieran. How's it going over there?
It's treating us well over here, Tommy. Still getting out every day, and the weather's kind of changed now this morning. It's a bit cloudy, a bit overcast here as well, so we might be expecting some rain today. We've had a very good couple of weeks in terms of weather, so can't complain too much. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, it's finally gone back to business as usual for us as well. It's clear blue skies, quite warm, in the 20s and stuff, and supposedly this weekend we're going to shoot up to 29, 30 degrees apparently. So
lovely, getting a little treat.
Oh, not bad at all. I'll be getting my tan on the roof terrace, and as well we'll be able to go out and run as of Saturday. We can go out and do some exercise. So I've been on the roof walking about in circles like in The Shining for the last 2 weeks or something like that. So it's going to be good. Less like a caged animal and more like a person again. So yeah,
glad to hear.
Yeah, it's all been good. Obviously, yesterday was a difficult day for everybody, football fans everywhere, especially here in Spain, because we all heard that Michael Robinson had passed away at the age of 61. It's a weird one, this, because in England and Ireland, he's remembered as a pretty good football player. Won the European Cup with Liverpool, played for Man City, played for Preston and stuff like that. So he had a pretty good career as a player, but it was really during his later life as a broadcaster in Spain that he achieved most recognition. And it's difficult for people outside of Spain to understand just how famous he was and how big he was here, and how sad everybody is at what happened.
Yeah, I suppose I first heard of Michael Robinson when I moved to Spain. So I understand why a lot of people here in Ireland don't know about him, even though he made 24 appearances for Ireland. Mm-hmm. and played for Liverpool and won the European Cup with them. But yeah, it's true. Like in Spain, he went there and he became an important figure in the media, and he had that glowing smile. So everybody liked him. He was very well respected across the country, and just a really, really nice man. And yesterday was a tough day for a lot of people, especially in the football world in Spain. Like the tributes that were talked about online were just some amazing tributes about the man, and some very nice articles, including Sid Lowe's in The Guardian. That was a really nice piece. He was talking about when Michael first came over to Spain in 1987, that he was joining Osasuna, and he didn't actually know anything about the area. He thought the city was called Osasuna, but the city was Pamplona. Yeah. So he only got there and he realized, okay, so it's not actually called Osasuna. That's the club. So he got straight into life anyway. And there was another anecdote about him basically integrating with the players, and they used to go out and they'd go for drinks. And at the beginning, when he first started going out with them, they were kind of winding them up. He didn't know any different, so they'd tell him to go up to the bar and order 6 hijos de puta. And he obviously didn't know what that meant, so he was going up and he was ordering, and the boys got great crack from that. But obviously then, as time passed, he really picked up with the Spanish and got pretty fluent, and he became a commentator then within a few months of retiring. So yeah, he's huge figure in Spain. And yeah, I first got to know him really through his program Informe Robinson, which was a great show. He basically looked into the lives of players, coaches across different sports, not just football, basketball as well. And that actually helped me learn Spanish. So yeah, he'll be missed.
It was a great show, that Informe Robinson, and that was sort of him coming to the end of his. That was once he'd achieved sort of license to be able to do that. But he revolutionised football broadcasting in Spain. They didn't really have a show like Match of the Day or anything like that with good football analysis. I think that's something that we take for granted in Britain or Ireland is that show every weekend to talk about the football. where you're really talking about the football. And he had that show, El Día Después, the morning after, the day after.
Yeah, and it was fitting this morning because, sorry, Tommy, Marca's front cover this morning was El Día Después, the name of his show, the day after the death. So that was quite fitting. And all four newspapers, the two in Barcelona, Sport and Mundo Deportivo, and the two in Madrid, Diario AS and Marca, all had their front cover with Michael Robinson. So it just shows how big he was in Spain. I'm not sure when we'll ever have an Irish international on the front cover of all four football newspapers in Spain again. So it's very hard to tell people how big of a figure he was in Spain if you're not living there in the country itself. But he's on everybody's television. He was on Movie Star. He was on the radio, and the way he handled getting the cancer news was incredible. You put up some nice quotes there yesterday on your Twitter. He basically said that I'm not going to let this beat me, and he continued commentating up until this year. Like he was there for the last game before the coronavirus pandemic outbreak. So it was just kind of a mark of the man. Really, he was a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, and what an achievement as well to go to another country with knowing basically next to nothing of the language and turn yourself into possibly the biggest sports journalist. He's up there with a lot of the other guys that are Spanish journalists, but he really is up there, and he changed everything here. You know, it's difficult to put into words how important he is for not just football journalism, but sports journalism as well. Like that show, there was another show he had on the radio, which was in English it would be called Robinson's Accent, Acento Robinson, and he didn't just talk about football. He spoke about. I turned it on 2 years ago, and he was talking about Graham O'Brien, who was a Scottish cyclist that built his bicycle out of parts from a washing machine. So, like, he knew about these kind of stories, and like he wanted to bring them to a Spanish audience, and he did it. And all this stuff, he was very self-deprecating about his level of Spanish, about how he said he spoke bad Spanish. He didn't speak bad Spanish. He obviously had that very distinctive accent, but he was a very good communicator in Spanish and in English. And
I was speaking to a friend yesterday from Madrid, and he'd be a big Real Madrid fan, and he told me that a lot of Spaniards would have kind of laughed at his Spanish, at Robinson's Spanish, and that was probably down to the accent. But he was saying, we don't think he obviously spoke well, but we think he could have spoken that bit better. But I think that was part of the charm. He had that accent, and that was just who Robinson was. He maybe like he had an incredible level, and maybe he could have tweaked it or whatever, tweaked his accents or improved. But I think that's just what we came to like about him. Like he had that kind of geary, that foreigner appeal, and most Spaniards like that, and they like when someone's trying to speak their language as well, because a lot of British and Irish people go to Spain and they don't try, and the fact that he was there in front of 46 million people, huge country, sport loving country, and he just went for it. So like there's a lot you can learn from his life. Like he was a great guy.
Yeah, great example to follow. So it's obviously very sad, but we've got all the work that he had to look back on, and we'll you when you watch an episode of Informe Robinson, you can watch it again a few years later and enjoy it as much as the first time. If anybody's out there's learning Spanish or can find a subtitled version of the World Champions documentary, which was made about obviously when Spain won the World Cup, it's one of the best football documentaries ever, and it was Robinson's show that did it. So definitely recommend that. And just sad news, but I suppose life goes on, and we've got to kind of we'll just look back on it with fondness and enjoy what he left us. Okay, let's get back into the football, because Spain look like they are going to do that, possibly on the 4th of May. We're going to be, well, it looks like we're going to be going back to training, or some clubs are going to be going back to training, but with certain strings attached. Can you give us some more information about that?
Yeah, I suppose it's the first confirmed date that we've had, and it came out yesterday with Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, and he confirmed that professional athletes, obviously footballers included in that, will return to individual training from Monday, which is the 4th of May. Great news for Spain, considering yesterday France decided to finish their season. They're not going to be able to complete Ligue 1, and their season's over. So I suppose footballers in Spain will be delighted with the news, albeit they'll be training on their own for the first week. And they're going to roll out 4 different phases. So the first week, the players will be on their own. And then after that, then they're going to kind of put them into small groups, smaller training sessions, if the health requirements are met. So supposedly this is going to go on over 6 to 8 weeks, and little by little they'll gradually relax the restrictions, and they'll have the players come together and train as normal within the next 2 months. That's the idea. So there's still no time frame because they have to see how it's going. It's kind of a testing phase, and they'll see how stage 1 goes from Monday. But I think it's great news, the fact that we have them going back to training, and that there's a possibility of the league returning at some stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why you said that you think the players will be happy? Why do you think the players will be happy? Is it because of what happened before with this meeting? They seem to be unsure about whether or not they should return, and they weren't entirely happy with the idea of going back. Why would they be happy now?
Just going back to football, I think just resuming normality, and probably looking at the example of France yesterday, French footballers will be devastated. Obviously, there's the greater issue here of illness and disease. But if the government's coming out and saying we're going to have these players train alone, why not test it? They're going to have the tests there, the testing kits as well. So why not test it and see how it goes, and then maybe get over that fear, get over that barrier, and then eventually get back to normality. But I think it's the first step into actually getting back to regular football. We'll probably be watching with empty stadiums. It's not going to be the same, but I know for a fact that I'd rather spend June and July watching football in empty stadiums than no football at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if that can work, then all the better, I suppose. There was some talk of trying to recreate the atmosphere inside the stadiums by playing videos or audios in the background of fan noise, so the atmosphere in stadium, and just playing it over the loudspeakers. I love that. I think that's brilliant.
I don't. Just let it be. They tried it against Valencia and Atalanta in Mestalla when they were in the Champions League there in March, and it just sounded so fake. It was just like the stadium was empty. You're watching the game. There's no one there, and then all of a sudden you get this roar. And how are they going to implement that across all stadiums? I just think let it be. Even though it might look like a friendly, and you'll hear the coach's instructions, like you'll hear Simeone roaring on the side. I just don't like that element of it. I just think it's too fake.
Yeah, it could come across as being a bit naff actually in practice, but I don't know. I like it in theory of doing a little bit of that, but I suppose when there's a goal or when there's like a foul or something like that, I think that could be it would just be a bit weird. It'll
be like the time we went to the Euros in 2016, and they were just playing the same song. They had this official song for the Euros, and we were in France for 2 weeks, and it was just the same song being played over and over again. I just think it'll be like that. It'll be like, okay, here we go now with the fake noise again for 5 minutes. So I think if that happens, I'll probably have the telly on mute.
What was the song? Can you remember?
I don't remember now. It was 4 years ago, but
I remember
it was some kind of cheesy song.
I remember the 2008 one. That was a really good song. It was the Samba de Janeiro.
Oh, cracker! And
every time there was a goal, and clubs have since adopted that as the song that they play when there's a goal because it was so good. I can't remember the 2016 one, but yeah, I suppose you've got to be kind of careful. But now's the time to experiment with things. Maybe try it for a couple of games and see what happens. And if you don't like it, Kieran, you can write a letter to Mr. Tebas and see if he changes his mind. But yeah,
I think the song was David Guetta with Zara Larsson. This one's for you. I think that was the Euro song.
I don't know what one that is.
But,
it sounds pish though. Is it the one that's like? Is that the one?
Exactly. Yeah.
One.
You got it.
Yeah. I remember that in the adverts before it. And
yeah, it was a hard listen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm still not entirely over the not being able to go to the Euros. I think that's It's gotten for good international football. You can't really beat it, can you? But
especially in the summer when all the leagues have finished.
yeah, yeah, I know.
It's a great holiday away.
I know. It's my girlfriend asked me the other day. She said, were you not getting kind of bored of the football being on all the time? And I just kind of looked at her with contempt. It was I had to apologize afterwards. But it's like, no, you don't. You never get bored of it. You never need a break from it. But it's weird. It's hard to explain unless you're into it. But
especially this season with them so tight at the top in La Liga.
I know.
It was really kind of the perfect scenario with 10 games to go. Who's going to win this league? Nobody really flying. Nobody. Not like the Premier League where Liverpool were home and hosed. So yeah, it would make for interesting viewing if it did return.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's have a little talk about transfers because Pogba's been in the news again. I thought this one had disappeared because we were talking a lot about it in summer, towards the end of summer, and then approaching winter, and it's gone a little bit quiet since the turn of the new year. But Paul Pogba to Madrid seems like it might be more likely to happen now. What do we know about this?
It came out last week in L'Equipe, the French outlet, and they were reporting that Zidane is interested in bringing him to the club, and we're all aware of that. Zidane has wanted Pogba there for quite a while. But I think it's at the stage now where it looks like it's going to happen because he only has 1 year left on his contract at United, and he's had an injury-filled season. Like before the COVID-19 outbreak, he wasn't in the United side regularly. He hasn't been great. He looks like he doesn't really want to be there either. Like it's not the same player you see when he plays with France. Obviously, he's playing with greater talent at France, the likes of Mbappe and Griezmann around him, but he just looks like he's up for it more when he plays with France. And I think United might have come to the decision now, okay, we can cash out. He's 27, he's got 1 year left in his contract. It's very difficult to renew a contract for a player coming into that kind of age. If he's got one more big move in him, it looks like he will make that decision to go. And Zidane has made it clear that he wants him there in his midfield. Modric is getting older. Kroos is still brilliant, but he's in his 30s now as well. Pogba's 27, so he's at that perfect age. Like he's in his prime, and he'd be ready for the Bernabeu. And I just think he needs that challenge. He needs to be playing at the highest level in Europe, and I think Zidane will get the best out of him. The fact that he's French as well, to have huge respect for each other. There's a lot of French players in that team, the likes of Varane, Ferland Mendy, Benzema. So he knows a lot of the players as well, and they're probably on to him the last couple of years saying, "When are you coming? Listen, like it's time for you to come." He hasn't really gone well from at United. He went back there for a second time, and it just hasn't worked out, neither for the club nor the player. And now I think it'll be Real Madrid because Juventus have come back into the mix as well alongside Madrid. Yesterday there were reports from Get French Football News, which would be quite a reliable outlet. They kind of get lots of the L'Equipe news out, and they were saying that Juventus have contacted United about Pogba, but he's already been at Juventus and he's already been in the Italian league, so I don't really see him going back there. I just think that Spain will be the place for him. I think he'd be brilliant there, like as part of the system that Zidane plays with three in midfield, and the likes of Casemiro sitting. Pogba would be able to go and just be that player with a bit of freedom. I think he'd be well regarded there, and I think it would go well for him there, and could become club captain. You never know, but yeah, like it's still early days. But the fact that there's only 1 year left in his contract, I think he's going to be leaving Old Trafford soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's probably within United's interest to get something out of this instead of just letting the contract run out. I think there's probably a mutual recognition there that it's not entirely worked out, and if they can make anything out of this, it'll be good. If you think you mentioned some of the players that Pogba could come in and potentially replace, if somebody is going to make way from him, and you had to bet, who would it be? Who do you think he could come in and replace immediately?
Modric. I think he'd be in for Modric. Just the fact that he's in his mid-30s now, and he doesn't have the legs anymore. He won the Ballon d'Or only 2 years ago, but he's getting older, and I think Zidane will be planning for the next phase. Valverde's only 21, Odegaard's only 21. Like, he's got a lot of young players in there, and he doesn't really have any players in between. Like, he's got young midfielders and older midfielders. Kroos is 30, if I'm not wrong, maybe 31 at this stage. But Pogba's in that, just kind of heading for his late 20s, so he's in that kind of ideal experience, but fit and at his physical peak. So I think that he'd be able to bring a wealth of experience, but also kind of that mix of the perfect age as well. So he'd be a marquee signing. He'd be like your Galactico signing as well. And like, Keep also reported that United are looking for less than 100 million. They were looking for 100 million last year. So if that's the asking price, then he's definitely worth it. When you look at the current market, obviously the current market's going to be affected because of the COVID-19. You had Fabio Capello there the other day saying that Real Madrid will be the only club in Spain not destroyed by this. Like, he obviously Barcelona, we've seen with Barcelona, they've been impacted well before coronavirus came out, and now they're even looking to monetize the stadium's name post 2021 season, when they're going to look for a sponsor to help raise funds for the coronavirus. But at the end of the day, they're looking for sponsorship to get revenue for the club down the line. So they're obviously they're a club with issues. Atletico are a club with issues. Atletico paid Diego Simeone the most out of any manager in the world. He's on massive money there, and they've let a lot of staff go on furlough. So it's testing time for all clubs. But Capello was basically saying that Madrid are financially stable here. So the fact that Mbappe is not coming this summer, he's going to be in PSG for another season there, and he'll not be coming. So the fact that they might have that extra bit of cash in the bank, they'll be able to splash out on Pogba and make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Any more transfer news? We've had a few rumors floating about Melo and Arturo Vidal. The one with Melo seems to have a bit more substance to
it. Yeah, Melo has been linked with several clubs. He's only 23 and he's a very, very good player. But he's told the club that he wants to stay. He wants to remain in Barcelona. He likes it there. He hasn't really played that much since moving. He's had an incident where he went skiing, and footballers, as we know, shouldn't really be going skiing. But supposedly he was injured, and then he got injured when he went skiing, and kind of that maybe affected his confidence a bit. He got into the press for the wrong reasons, but now he's fighting for his place again. He wants to stay. He told the board, he's spoken to the board and said he wants to stay put. And Barcelona, on the other hand, are, according to Mundo Deportivo, the Catalan newspaper, are willing to listen to clubs. And Arthur's saying, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I want to stay here. Juventus are reportedly interested, and they're talking to Barcelona. And who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, Barcelona need the cash, but if the player wants to stay, maybe it's not going to happen. And then there's also been some talk of maybe a swap deal, which wouldn't really suit Barcelona because Melo's a very, very good player. Plus the players that they were linked to swapping him with, the likes of Pjanic at Juventus, is that bit older and wouldn't have the same market value. So I think from a financial point of view, it wouldn't make sense. And from a footballing standpoint, it wouldn't make sense because he's a very, very good midfielder. So I don't know if that's going to happen. The fact that he's putting his foot down as well. And then Arturo Vidal, the other guy with a similar name and also a midfielder. He's obviously in his 30s now, and he's probably past his prime, but he's had a good season. He scored 6 goals. He is being linked with a move to Inter Milan, which, excuse me, that would be part of the swap deal to get Lautaro Martinez to the club. So he's worth 111 million. Lautaro Martinez, and obviously Barcelona don't have that money, so they're trying to maybe close a deal with a couple of players involved, the likes of Arturo Vidal, who wouldn't be worth that much, but he'd still be a good player in Serie A. Who knows, like, as we heard last week when Barcelona head coach Quique Setién came out, he said, listen, this virus is affecting everything. We mightn't have any transfers. It might be just a summer of loan deals, and especially with the likes of Martinez there, who are costing huge money. So yeah, it's all midfield talk at Barcelona at the moment, and we don't really know whether either player will stay or not, because I think there's going to be a lot of comings and goings at Barcelona over the next year, just for them to make some cash and try and keep Messi happy as well. Messi wants to keep Arturo Vidal at the club, even though he's in his 30s. He likes him around there and thinks he's an experienced player and can add value to the team. So yeah, it should be interesting. Like, we're still only in April, so there's a long way to go.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, they're going to be listening to Messi, in terms of who they're going to bring in. On the other hand, they don't really seem to have a particular issue with discipline. I don't think, you mentioned like our two Melos. He does seem to have a bit of a problem with discipline, going skiing and all that kind of stuff. And rumor has it he's a bit of a partier and all that kind of stuff.
He's friends with Neymar, yeah.
But this is the thing, they want to bring Neymar back in. So
I know
Neymar's disruptive. I don't think they can use the excuse that Artur's disruptive, or that his lifestyle isn't really compatible, because they don't really seem to care about that when it comes to Neymar. Obviously, Neymar is an incredibly talented player, but he's the kind of person that will upset a dressing room. And it just, the Neymar thing seems to me just to be so absurd. They're spending all this money, pulling out all the stops, ruining the relationship with PSG over this player that they sold, years ago. So it seems to be so absurd, that situation.
They sold him for 222 million, and then have been trying since 2017 to replace him, and they haven't been able to replace him, and now they're trying to buy him again. And the fact that he's such a good friend of Messi's is kind of part of this reason. Not only the fact that he's a very, very good player, but he's a close friend of Messi, and Messi wants him back at the club.
Do you want to see Neymar back in La Liga?
Absolutely. He's a brilliant footballer to watch, and like, if he wants to be destructive and party, yeah, definitely. I know people say he's a diver and play acting and everything, but we already have that in the league. Like, we're not in the 90s anymore, and full of tackles and proper hard men. Arturo Vidal is a hard man. He's got all his tattoos and his very good beard. But I'd definitely welcome Neymar back just for the fun of it. Like, he's a great player to watch and score lots of good goals. And I think he'd be a welcome addition to La Liga. Do you not think so? No.
I just can't be arsed with him in any level. He's obviously a very talented player and stuff, but I really don't like him. I can't even get enthusiastic about him coming back. That might sound ridiculous to you, but I just don't like him at all.
That's fair enough.
But yeah, that's the thing. We forget how good he is, because in amongst all the bad behaviour and the lack of sportsmanship and just not being a very nice person, it seems, we forget what a good player he is and stuff. And I suppose if you think purely in footballing terms, yeah, of course you'd like to see him in the league. You'd like to see him week to week playing. But
he's a curious case. It's like, obviously he comes with the background of loving the party and that type of lifestyle. But the fact that Messi's still very close to him kind of says a lot about the person he is, because Messi's obviously so grounded and he's not out partying with Neymar and the boys. So I think probably behind it all, Neymar's a good guy. The fact that Messi's still really close, him, Suarez and Neymar are very good friends. And the fact that Messi wants to bring him back into the club, despite the possibility of being really disruptive there, probably says a lot about Neymar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, obviously when you're watching him over the 90 minutes, you're looking at him and you're looking at the play acting and you're thinking, will you just get up and stop diving? Like, he is frustrating to watch. But I suppose Messi's thinking, we haven't replaced him yet. We've tried Dembele, we've tried Griezmann, and it's just not happening for us. And Messi's doing it all himself, and he's probably thinking, I need his help again. And
you're looking at that purely from a football point of view. Of course, you'd want Neymar back in, especially if you're Messi. It hasn't worked since they got rid of him. They haven't been able to replace him effectively. They haven't. The thing is, one thing you've always got to be careful with anybody that's in the public eye is ask yourself, if you don't like this person or if you find this person irritating or whatever, why is that? Is it because of stuff that you've seen, or is it because of stuff that you've read in the media and somebody else's opinion? God knows enough Spanish people don't like Piqué, Gerard Piqué. Why do you think that is?
Political
I
views.
think it's
Yeah,
political. I think it's political, and I think it's because the
yeah.
media line up against them fairly constantly. Then you see him on interview shows and stuff. He comes across very well, and people think twice about it when they actually hear him speaking. My issue with Neymar is it just seems to be no matter where he is, he comes across as not the kind of person you'd want in your team. The play acting, the diving, all the off field antics, questions surrounding money. The fact that I think as well, why did he leave Barca in the first place? You could point towards the money that the PSG were offering, but I think I think there's a case to be made that he wanted to be the star man and he didn't want to be a big fish in a pond of big fish. Is that the expression? I'm not sure. He didn't want to share the platform with other great players. I think he wanted to be the main man. I think there's a good argument for that being the reason he left Barca, and
I think
not very admirable in a person.
I think Messi sees him as his successor as well.
Uh-huh.
He'll be the man to take over because he's probably thinking, as you said, like go to PSG, be the star. If I go back to Barcelona now, Messi's still the star, and nobody can argue with that. But in 2 years, what's Messi going to be doing? Like, hopefully he's still scoring 50 goals a season and we get him for as long as possible. But he might be going back into a deeper role and won't be the main man for goals. So we'll see. But I think a lot of it with Neymar as well is the era that we live in. Like Ronaldo came to Madrid 20 years ago and he was partying all the time. He'd great nights out with the likes of Steve McManaman and Michel Salgado. And that was the era where you could go out once you were scoring on Saturday and you got the 3 points, nobody cared. But now everything's scrutinised. If Neymar goes out, he's in the papers and he's getting up to no good and he can't do anything. But he's Brazilian and he wants to party and he's got all this money and he's living the good life. So yeah, it's probably part of the era as well that kind of gives him that bad name.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, we could talk about this all day, I'm sure. Well, somebody who is universally admired by all is Jorge Molina. You wrote a really good article about Molina. What inspired you to write that about this guy? What is it that you like so much about him?
Just how far away from Neymar he is.
The anti-Neymar.
He's just absolutely anti-Neymar. Yeah, you couldn't meet quite a different man. As such a different person from Neymar in La Liga. He's 38. He made his La Liga debut when he was 29. So he's got a very different path to La Liga, and he's still playing. He's the captain of Getafe, who are flying this season. They're joint fourth. They're after knocking Ajax out of the Europa League, and if football resumes, they're due to play Inter Milan. So this is a guy who has 2 university degrees, one in physical education. He's not your typical footballer. You won't find any tattoos on his arms, and he's just real down-to-earth, humble guy who came through the 4th division, the 3rd division, the 2nd division, and kept working his way up. Eventually got a move to Real Betis in 2010, and got relegated twice with Betis, but stayed with them and got promoted subsequently. And he's had 2 promotions with Betis. And then in 2016, Getafe liked what they saw and they signed him. He was 34 at this stage, 4 years ago. And when they signed him, they were in Segunda, and Jose Bordalas just came in. So 4 years ago, they were in the 2nd division. Molina scored 19 goals and they got promoted. And their first season back in La Liga, they came 8th. Last season, on the last day of the season, they missed out on the Champions League in May. Right on the last day, Valencia pipped them. So they finished 5th, and then they got into the Europa League, which they're currently still in from last season's success. So Molina came in with Bordalas. Both men are from Alicante, the beautiful region of Valencia, and they just hit it off and it's clicked. And Molina's the type of guy that's just getting better with age, And last season in La Liga, he hit his best ever tally, 14 goals at the age of 37. And in April, this month, he turned 38. So you've only got Joaquin Sanchez, Aritz Adariz, the Athletic Bilbao striker, and Diego Lopez, the Espanyol goalkeeper, who are older than Molina. But he puts his success down to basically not getting injured. He's never had a muscular injury in 20 years. So he's had a lot of luck, but a lot of hard work. He prepares his own diet. He has a strict plan, and he just really looks after himself. So yeah, just kind of a unique example in the modern era of football, away from all the glitz and glamour of the Neymar lifestyle.
He's a great. He almost sums up what Getafe are about: hard work, getting your head down, and just he fits in so well to that team, you know, and Bordalas's philosophy of how to make the most out of what you've got, and they'll be gutted at what's happened this season in Getafe, because they were doing so well, as you say, that you know you would fancy them to get that to be in with the shout of getting the Champions League spot this time around. You know that they're definitely capable of it, and
100%.
And also the run in Europe as well. You know, this is a bit of a golden age for them. So really disappointing that this has all been brought to a halt.
Yeah, he just stands out for me. Like Getafe stand out for most La Liga fans because they play the traditional 4-4-2. They're not going after the traditional, or sorry, the modern day style of maybe a 4-5-1 or a 4-3-3, with flexible kind of tactical movement throughout the games. But he just sticks to the 4-4-2, and he's got Molina leading the line, and he's just a curious example that I picked out this week to write about. So I just like the guy, and he's got a good story. Just kind of a unique example.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Right, well, we're coming to the end of today's show. Thank you very much for joining me, Kieran. I know it's you're getting more and more used to Zoom, and you haven't taken refuge under the blanket today, or have you?
No, I put the blanket away this week. It's getting a bit warmer. We're coming into May season in Ireland.
Yeah, you don't want to overheat. So yeah, very good. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you can join us again next Wednesday at the same time. Thank you very much, and adios.